Hi, thanks for tuning in today. Welcome to another episode of the SmartMouths, where science to social and history to human behavior are researched, compared, contrasted, debated, and debunked. We will always leave you with a little something you never knew.
Hi, this is Amy. I'm here with Mimi today, and we are going to try something new. We have talked about this idea and decided today was the right day to try it out. We are introducing a new series of shows called Simply Smart. Oftentimes, subjects and issues will come up in the news that dominate the news cycle. So many of us want to be informed, but just don't have time to drill down and find out what it's all about. Whenever possible, we will take a topic that's in the news, break it down to give you a basic understanding of why it is so relevant. It's up to you to conclude how you feel about it, what you want to do with it, but we'll leave you with a little something you didn't know. We'd love your comments, so please let us know if you have more questions on that subject or other subjects. We'd love to drill deeper into any topic.
Brexit. So that is the hot topic right now. But what does it mean literally, and why are people so divided? Simply put, Brexit stands for Britain exit, putting the two words together. Britain's exit from the EU. Great Britain is made up of England and Wales, Scotland and Ireland. And last Thursday, June 23rd, Great Britain held a referendum as to whether or not they should remain as part of the EU, European Union. The vote was 52% in favor of Great Britain leaving the EU, hence the name Brexit. Britain is exiting the EU.
So what is the EU? We started to break it down and ask some questions that we thought you might be curious about. Now, this is going to be long. It's a quote, but I'm going to read it, so stay with me. According to Europa.eu, the European Union is a unique economic and political union between 28 countries that together cover much of the continent. The EU was created in the aftermath of the Second World War. The first steps were to foster economic cooperation. The idea of that countries that trade with one another would become economically interdependent and so more likely to avoid conflict. The result was the European Economic Community, known as the EEC, created in 1958, and initially increasing economic cooperation between 6 countries. The EU is based on the rule of law. Everything it does is founded on treaties, voluntarily and democratically agreed upon by its member countries. So that's a basic definition of the EU and how it evolved from the EEC. So it expanded to 28 countries in 1993, where the name was changed to the European Union, which is known as the EU. Okay, so what does that mean? For those of us living in the U.S., we trade freely between our states with a few specific laws in each state, but for all intents and purposes, we trade fairly easily. Because Europe consists of separate countries in such a small geographic area, they decided to create the EU to simplify their trading as well as other economic, labor, and political factors. Then, in 1999, the currency, the euro, was introduced to promote financial stability. So 19 of the 28 EU countries exchanged their country's currency for the euro. The UK kept the pound, and 8 other countries didn't exchange for the euro. Those included Bulgaria, Croatia, Czech Republic, Denmark, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Sweden.
So why is Brexit happening now, and how did this all start? Well, like Amy explained, the EEC, which then became the EU, later became the EU, started in 1958. Great Britain was not a part of it at that time. It was only in 1970 that they became part of the EU. And since then, the relationship between Great Britain and the EU has been complicated and at times was tenuous. But it wasn't until recently that the idea of Brexit became popular, and it really took hold in the later part of 2015. The case made for Brexit was largely focused on economics and immigration. There were other smaller things, but those were the two main issues. Economically, some of the people of Great Britain were tired of the EU having control over many of their laws, trade deals, and regulations. While they may have been good for the whole of EU, many felt they were not helping Great Britain. It seems, though, that immigration was the major factor, with Great Britain taking in close to 330,000 immigrants in 2015, a large number considering the size of Great Britain, as well as taking in over 1 million refugees that the EU required taxpayers pay for. On the flip side, there were many people who voted for staying in the EU, citing ironically that economics and immigration were the reasons to stay. Immigration promotes multicultural growth, they said, and is a sign of economic health. Those immigrants in turn pay taxes, hence it is something you want, immigrants to come to your country. Staying with EU, like Amy had pointed out, made migrating from country to country very easy. And economically, the argument was that an exit from the EU would plunge Great Britain currency and would force Great Britain to negotiate new trade deals that might not be so great for them without the support of the EU, effectively almost putting Great Britain towards the back of the queue. Whichever way you lean, the vote has been cast, and now Great Britain has 2 years to work out its divorce, if you will, from the EU.
So what does that mean for the future of Great Britain? This remains to be seen. There's a couple of years this transition will happen, but for the world, it is important to watch a few countries right now: France, Italy, and the Netherlands, countries that are currently part of the EU but have praised the decision to leave. Scotland, who voted in favor of staying in the EU as part of the UK, also had talked about leaving the UK in 2014. However, at that point, they decided to stay with the UK. However, Scotland is dependent on the UK for many resources, so it's uncertain if they could act independently if they chose to revisit the vote of leaving the UK. What will happen and how will it affect future trade and manufacturing in the UK also remains to be seen. Its immediate impact has been on financial markets and the value of the British pound, which is at its lowest it's been since the mid-1980s. Brexit is very, very complex, and there is much to unfold in the coming months and years as to how it will affect the economy and the culture of the UK and the world and the future of the EU. So there's going to be a lot of news coming out there. We hope this gives you a 50,000-foot view of what Brexit means, how there's opinions on both sides of this issue,
yes.
But it will forever change what's going to happen in Great Britain. So thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our first Simply Smart. We hope we left you a little bit smarter, or at least a little more knowledgeable on Brexit. Please subscribe to our podcast at iTunes, search The SmartMouths, and follow us on Twitter at The SmartMouths and on Instagram. And like us on Facebook.
If you enjoyed this, please share with your friends, and please post a review on iTunes. We love your feedback, so tweet us or post comments at our site. We love to hear anything you have to say, or if you have other ideas of topics to discuss. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.